Good morning and welcome in. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel.
You are a vital part of our game.
Thank you for having me on.
All the way to the green. Woo! Boy, was that fun.
I've always wanted to be on 5 Clubs. Thanks, Gary.
Good morning. Welcome into 5 Clubs on this Wednesday. Always live on Golf Channel, and you can listen as well on PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM. I'm Gary Williams. The program always presented by Century Insurance. Their investment in golf is valued by all those different organizations, the First Tee, the USGA, and the PGA Tour. And right here at 5 Clubs, their business is business insurance. They want to be right by you. It is Century. We have so much to get to. That's why we need more time. We'll get it next Tuesday. 2-hour show for you then. I got a busy week. We'll get to all that. Couple disclaimers because we got dogs, we got picks. Club 5, we roll it out for the first time. Matt Every, who is the co-host of The Drop, which you can see on Golf Channel, is going to be with me here in about 15 minutes, and then bottom of the hour. Busy stretch here for Smylie Kaufman. And of course, you can see his show, the Smylie Show, here this morning when we're done. So he will join me as well. Looking forward to conversations with both of them. Couple things. I'd be remiss if I did not say congratulations to Jimmy Roberts, who obviously his show is now seen here, The Big Swing. You can see that at 7 a.m. on Mondays. He is the recipient of the Tim Rosefort Award for Distinguished Journalism, which is what he's been his entire career. A real bona fide dear friend, certainly, of Tim's. And I know everybody thinks about Tim this week. A lot of people think about him all the time. Me too. He owns South Florida. And congratulations to Jimmy. And one other thing, you talk about a golf nerd. I had a golf dream last night. And every dream I have that is related to me being on a golf course, I've never been able to hit a shot. I know others who have this same affliction when they have a golf dream. I know Brian Gumbel has this same recurring dream. There's always an impediment. It's not that I can't play well. I can't hit a shot. There's a bush, there's a wall. And of course that existed last night. But I was in a better ball match. Me and Taylor Zarzer, we were playing Brooks Koepka and Siwoo Kim. And I walked off on them on the 8th tee, just walked off with no explanation. Then I woke up. That's the nerdy golf dream. All right, let's get to what we need to get to because we don't have enough time. Billy Horschel was on the show on Monday, and of course, he participates and did on Monday night in TGL. He's in the field this week, and it's an important couple of weeks for him because he's not currently in the players' field. And one of the things that a lot of people have talked about this week is what has happened to the field at the Cognizant Classic. And before I give some thoughts about that, let's hear what Billy had to say after his match on Monday night about kind of the dynamics that have been at play here to put this event in the position it currently finds itself in. Here's Billy.
Listen, I mean, it's tough with any tournament on the PGA Tour schedule to, outside of signature events due to, some multitude of reasons. I mean, we had this issue before the signature events were around. We've always had this issue. A decade ago, this event was unbelievable with the field. But where it fell in the schedule was really good for a lot of the guys that lived here. It wasn't on the back end of an LA or Riviera. And this field's sort of been up and down the last couple of years. And, we're just, when you've got so many events on the PGA Tour schedule and you got guys trying to figure out where they're going to fit, it's tough to fill a field. I think the world of this golf course, I think it's a great tournament. Obviously, I'm a Floridian native, born and raised here, so I'm always going to support my Florida events. But like I said, it's tough. It's just not Cognizant. There's a whole bunch of other tournaments that are struggling.
Who doesn't like a sandwich? That's a rhetorical question. We all do. And that's kind of where they find themselves. And by the way, for anybody wondering, which you probably aren't, the 4th Earl of Sandwich, John Montague, is the one responsible for it being called that, even though, meats between bread has been eaten for centuries and centuries. The 18th century aristocrat used to send his valet out because he didn't want to leave the gaming table while he was gambling at night to put some roast beef between some toast. Yes, the Earl of Sandwich. We all love him, but the Cognizant Classic is the meat in a very, very robust signature sandwich. 2 before it and 2 after it. And while, you don't want a sandwich that's skimpy on the meat, you don't want to be it when it comes to the PGA Tour because you're getting smashed down. And that's a problem. And it's one of the challenges that they have. And we don't know what's going to happen going forward with this event. And being, on the property for some of, the high watermarks. Look, this event had a nomadic existence for too long and went to places like Mirasol and Weston Hills and Heron Bay and Eagle Trace. Woof! Then they finally got to a place that had an identity. And that's part of it. Because identity is an important thing. You would like to believe you know your own identity. And PGA Tour events, just simply because they're at different places, have an identity. Some are better established than others. And when it got to PGA National at the Champion Course in 2007, the Champion Course already had history. History that included calamity and car crashes and carnage. Look, Ray Floyd is one of the grittiest, guttiest guys. Got, deep down in places you don't talk about at parties. Yeah, he's got that. In 1994, I'll never forget watching the Senior PGA Championship. He's got a one-shot lead standing on 15. The start of the bear trap, you may hear that term once or 5 million times this week. And he rinsed 2 and suddenly went from being 1 ahead of Trevino to 3 behind. And he went ahead and rinsed another one on 17. And that was part of it. You can add the 1983 Ryder Cup when Europe said, no longer are we going to be your tom-tom that you're going to beat on every 2 years. And it was Lanny with the lightning in the background. So they had that as well. And then with the migration of all of these wonderful players, young, middle-aged, and older, and Jack really was the forerunner to making South Florida home. Arnold was Orlando, Jack made Palm Beach. And then we saw Tiger move from Orlando down there, and now it's Jupe life. And everybody, with a couple of exceptions, really lives there. And that is an indignity about it, is that these guys could roll out of bed and play. And you're going, well, they play 2 Signature Series events because what we're clamoring for are the names. And so they played Pebble Beach and they played Riviera, and now here comes the meat in the signature sandwich. And you're going, I got Bay Hill and I got the players on the back end of this. That is the top of the sandwich, and I'm going to be full. And we haven't even gone down Magnolia Lane yet. And the other problem is, as these players, the top players, consider this. In 2012, Rory ascended to world number 1 by winning then the Honda Classic. And it's okay to say what it was formerly, and you certainly want to recognize who's paying the bills now. Cognizant, and they've got a contract through 2030. PGA National, by virtue of the ownership group that is private equity out of London, has a contract through 2028. So you can say, well, they're not going anywhere. We'll see. But in 2012, Rory, ascending to world number 1 after seeing Tiger shoot 63 in post, finished. It felt big. And in 2014, 7 of the top 10 players in the world were in the field. In the last 6 years, those top 10 players combined, there have been 3 of them. It's dried up. And then the final note is that the pro member at Seminoles Monday, and look, it's a one-day, kind of hit and giggle, even though every guy wants their paint on the wall in what I think is the greatest locker room in golf, but they'll all be there, and then they'll head to Bay Hill. The last thing, identity. Be who you are. The last 2 years, it's felt soft. Was that pretty good, Dan Patrick? He does it better than anybody. Softness. I don't associate that. Considering that 6 years ago, the Bear Trap played a combined 516 over par. A couple of years ago, 184. You're letting softness seep in. We don't want to do it to the waistline. Please don't do it to this. And I don't know if they're going to reverse course, but we will see. All right, Club 5, we did it all last year. And Scottie Scheffler now has a very regal-looking window pane walnut sport coat from Peter Millar. And I don't know if he's worn it around Dallas yet with an ascot. Probably not. But we're going to open up the club today for the first time, and people unfamiliar with it. It's kind of our own heat index. And again, it could be based on 4 weeks, 3 weeks, a week. We shall see as we progress. But we opened up the club based on what we've seen so far this year. We're not going to do it every week. Obviously, waited for the entirety of the West Coast swing to conclude. But here we go. We start at number 5. I have no idea if Justin Rose still clubs. I doubt he was clubbing when he was half the age that he is now. And I understand that he's also missed 2 cuts. But wire to wire with dominance at the Farmers at 45 when he was the only guy in his 40s. Last year went on the PGA Tour, and he's done it again. It's impressive. Look, he'll have to leave the club early. He'll have to go home, put on his Dr. Denton's, and have some warm milk because he is 45, but he's in the club. All right, at number 4, here we go. It's Rory McIlroy. He's the second-ranked player in the world. Look, he's only played 2 events, and what I've seen is enticing, because it is like 9 windows. It's 65 feet apex drivers. It's an artistry that I think is the most interesting and compelling style of golf that we've seen him play. His approach play, number 1 in strokes gained approach, 14th at Pebble, 2nd at Riviera. He's 4th in the club. All right, at number 3, and I don't know if there are any clubs in Inman, South Carolina, maybe a speakeasy or 2, BYOB. Who knows, gambling on all Clemson athletics. Jacob Bridgman. It's not just the first win. The guy's been so good. He got to the Tour Championship last year without winning a golf tournament, and now he's won for the first time. And his worst result this year is a tie for 18th. All right, at number 2, there are plenty of clubs in Jersey. I didn't have any bling, so I never frequented them, like the front row across from Giant Stadium where LT used to go after wins or losses. Chris Gotterup ain't afraid of some bling. 2 wins. He's got the Sunday drip, and in those 2 wins, 64 both Sundays. Speaking to how great he was on Sundays last year, being 2nd in final round scoring average. Speaking of scoring average, yes, he's got this weird little rash on Thursdays. But somehow he puts something on it, and it goes away on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because he is number 1 already in scoring average, and that is Scottie Scheffler. He won the club last year. It's going to be very hard to knock him out of it. He wins his first start, the 3rd, the 4th, and then he's in a free fall to 12th. Oh my, what's wrong with him? And the fact is, when he posted on Sunday, he was in the top 10 and then got squeezed by a couple of guys on the golf course. There is your Club 5 reveal for the first time in 2026. When we continue, Matt Every, he's transitioned from the PGA Tour to now covering it, co-host of The Drop. You can watch that certainly on Golf Channel. Won twice in the state of Florida, a product of Daytona Beach by way of the University of Florida. He's with me in a couple of minutes, and a little bit later on, Smylie Show follows. We get a little preview, not only of that, but also of the entire Florida swing, because happy hour will be unleashed starting this week at the Cognizant. Great to have you with us. Dogs picks as well on a Wednesday, live on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM. Matt Every joins me next. Back in on this Wednesday on 5 Clubs, live on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92, Sirius XM. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. Been fortunate to represent the brand and wear the clothing for 16 years and the growth. It's not just about all the stores, it's about the line. Anything you need, it is the premier luxury brand for all of your needs on and off the golf course. All right, joining me now. I got to be honest, I get wrapped up in seeing what logo drip they might have on. We have a winner. Because he represented the United States. I think it's the most, I think when you see the logo, you go, if you wore that logo as a player, I think it's the best club to be in. A member of a Walker Cup team, twice a winner at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, co-host of The Drop, he is Matt Every. You found that sweater in your mom's closet, and it still fits.
Can you believe it, right? These were back in the Fat Matt days. Yeah, over Christmas break. How about this? Hold on, I'm dyslexic.
Strong.
Here we go,
So
right
strong.
here. 05 Walker Cup team right here, 100% cashmere. Shout out to Anthony Kim. He was on this team as well, my old buddy. What an inspiration to so many people.
Absolutely. I appreciate you saying that. I mentioned that you're a product of the state of Florida. I was thinking about this. You went to Mainland High School in Daytona Beach. I know he's older than you. When you were a kid, like 10, 11, did you ever see Vince Carter play basketball in high school?
Yeah, I did.
That had to be a freak show.
Dude, it was. I mean, his high school highlight reels might be better than his professional ones. I mean, he was just a freak of nature, and the atmosphere too there back in the day at Mainland. He's since built a new gym for the program there, but back in the day, it was those tiny gyms, just a ton of noise, ton of feel in there, and he would just rock that place. Mainland High School, man. Denzel Washington went there too. I
saw that. 1 year, didn't graduate. Was it just his junior year, I heard?
And Diplo. Yeah, I think Denzel was had some family in the military.
You may not know this person. George Plimpton went to your high school. One of the most famous writers of all time. He had a bit role in Good Will Hunting. He was the analyst who Matt Damon totally messed with when he was lying on the couch. Anyway, all right, we digress. The Cognizant. I was talking about these challenges. I know Billy talked about it the other night. We ran some of his sound. Is there a solution here, including the idea of, Billy's like Bermuda wall to wall. Okay, that's one element. What do you do here?
Well, look, I mean, there's no doubt there's a schedule issue here. That's the heart of the matter. If things stay the same, though, Gary, I feel like Billy probably stole that take from me about 10 years ago. You were talking about identity for the Hunter or Cognizant here. This place needs to be hard again. And when you make it wall-to-wall Bermuda, you give it a chance. Look, where this tournament is located, it's about 2 hours south of anything else we play this time of year in the state of Florida. They're pounding that thing with overseed, and when it's warm out, I live up here in Jacksonville. It can be 25 degrees difference, a 3-hour drive south. So when it's warm out down there, and they have to pound the overseed with water to keep it alive, even if they're in a drought, I mean, it doesn't even matter because they have to soak it to keep it alive. So you're going to get mud balls. Balls are going to roll in the fairway. Most of these guys, these world-class players that live in Jupiter or anywhere in the state of Florida, their home course is not overseeding in the winter. No chance. I mean, they're closed in the summer. And let me tell you right now, the place Billy and I play at in Jacksonville, it is elite as far as the shape it's in. You can only tie it. You cannot beat it. It is so good. And if you get it on a 70-degree day with no wind, is it gettable? Absolutely. Would PGA National be gettable on a 70-degree day with no wind and not overseeded? Absolutely, it'll be gettable. But the second the temps drop just a little bit, I'm saying like in the 50s and a little bit of a wind out of the north, it's a different animal, and it gives an opportunity for these courses to show their teeth without it needing to be Armageddon outside.
Yeah, you're right. The last two winners, 17 and 19 under par. And if you look at that stretch that preceded it, the average winning score was like 8.6 under par. And that is part of it. And look, you mentioned you get winds going like crosswinds on that golf course, particularly if you go through 15, 16, and 17 as well. That's part of it. And it's not like you're looking to punish. That's more compelling. And that is part of the identity of what that place was built on. And I'm totally with you. The West Coast offers what it does, and then Florida offers some things distinctly different. And you've already touched on one of them, agronomics. When you start to, whether it's handicap fields or look at trend lines, do you lean in on guys who played well on the West Coast, or do you pivot to playing records in Florida, particularly Bermuda grass greens, as something that you lean into more?
Look, I think form trumps everything, first of all. Good play usually carries over no matter where, especially at this level. But there's definitely something to be said for guys that maybe grew up on the East Coast, judging flyers out of the rough. Now, here's the other thing. The rough is overseeded, too. It's not your typical Bermuda rough that maybe you see over at Sony at Wiley. This is overseeded rough, almost just gouge rough. But chipping around the greens, even though there's overseed, that Bermuda still wins sometimes. And I think there's an art to that, no doubt about it. These guys that grew up in hot climates, or really just anywhere in the South and maybe in Texas, I like them. This week, I like a guy like Nico Echeverria. I mean, he won in Puerto Rico. He's used to grainy lies, lives here in Florida. It's not the best field, but I do think that there's something to be said for kind of strokes gained Bermuda grass. Russell Henley comes to mind. I know he won't be playing this week, but you gotta keep an eye on him. Sam Burns, another one. Guys who can just run the table on these pure surfaces. We saw some of those low shots on the West Coast, especially at Riviera, when those greens get damp. I mean, that hole starts to get real small the second you miss a putt inside of 5 feet. You can see there's a lot of luck involved. Here, not so much. I mean, you get these things on the right line, they're going to go in.
I understand what you're saying about form. I saw this note. I thought it was interesting. 5 of the last 7 winners at the Cognizant, in the year they won, finished 21st or better at the Sony, where you start the year on that surface. And then you go to the West Coast and you have all these different kinds of grasses. And Russell Henley, obviously, he's got a great record at the Sony, got a great record at the Cognizant as well. I'm curious about, obviously Bay Hill's a week away. You won it in 14 and 15. And that is, to me, their identity. I think that now is the most brutish examination in the Florida swing. And we've seen it. Look, since 2020, we had somebody who won at 4 under par. The average winning score has been 9 under. Before I get to that part of it, did you have an anecdote or a moment with Arnold, whether it was after 14 or before you defended in 15 or after winning again in 15 with him?
Look, I knew Arnie probably 5 or 6 years before I won that tournament. I'm really good buddies with Sam Saunders, so I spent some time with him. And whether it was just, actually one of the first years I got in that event, Gary, they gave me a sponsor invite, and I got paired with Sam. Two things. I'll give you 2 memories. The first one was before I won. I was playing with Sam, and we were on number 8, finishing on Friday. Getting ready to finish on number 9. That was going to be our 36th hole, and Arnie was out watching us. And there was we were waiting in 8 fairway for the group in front of us was walking off the green, and Arnie was driving up the right, and the crowd just starts going nuts, and he drove through the right greenside bunker to get a seat to watch us. It was great. And he can do whatever he wants there, right? And then the other thing, the first year I won, he knew I was a kind of a local product. Bay Hill was the closest event to where I grew up.
Yep.
And, look, there was a lot of sexy names around mine on that leaderboard.
No
that
doubt.
looked really, really good on that trophy. And I could tell during the ceremony, Fincham was there and he was great. But Arnie, I could just, I saw the way he was looking at my son. I knew he could see how important it was to me. And it felt super genuine. And I think more than anything, I'll take that away from all of them.
No, that's neat. And you're right. Not only the first page, Keegan, who you beat by a shot one year, had a lot of luster. Henrik Stenson by a shot the other year. Fields have always been good, certainly. When you think about the PGA Tour now, I'm not asking you if the product's better. I'm just curious, to not make you potentially sound like an old guy, do you think the product is more interesting than it was 15 years ago?
Man, I'm going to sound like a boomer if I say if I say no. I'm interested as a fan right now. Look, the argument for the other side to me would be the world we live in now with social media. There's no more mystery. So it's you used to have guys kind of just rolling through town, and whatever you saw in the 4 hours you watched them play golf or whatever you saw on TV, that's what you thought of them. Now, if you want to know someone, everyone out there is a fan of themselves. They'll tell you what they're like. That being said, I like Jordan Spieth for me. I feel like whenever I was in my prime, he was really getting going out there. The year he won the Masters by a ton. I think was that 14 or 15? 15. 15? Yeah, 15.
Second in 14, won it in 15. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, but where I'm going with this is, at the time he was a kid. I still feel like I'm watching a kid when I watch him play golf. And for me, that will always be interesting. I root like hell for a guy like him to be relevant as long as he can, as far as his golf game is considered, because it's like watching the final lap of a Daytona 500 every time he's in contention. And it could be the 13th hole on a Saturday. I mean, it doesn't even need to be right down the stretch. I think we're in a good spot. I like the young guys coming out. Ludvig, he might not be the most outgoing guy, but God, if he can get his game turned around, what a face that would be to have as the front of the tour. Brooks Koepka coming back. We'll see what he can do this week. This event needs to be revived. I mean, how cool would that be if Brooks came out and had a good week? Who knows?
Yeah, the thing about Ludvig that I would say, and you're right, but I also think that part of that is where he's from. I mean, I love Swedish tennis players growing up, from Borg to Wilander, Stefan Edberg. Yeah. They're not attention seekers. Federer wasn't either, but he was regal. Yeah. And I think that Ludvig, he's 26 years of age. Last thing, I'm just curious, as somebody who works in the most spectacular broadcast building in all of broadcast television, right there at the PGA Tour, that spot, did you see the major spot before the public saw it?
Are you talking about the...
March is going to be major. March is going to be major.
Okay, so I did. They kind of did it around Phoenix this year. Was that? Yeah.
Did you see it before the public saw it? You don't know what it was about.
I mean, I know what it was about, but
yeah,
I don't really see the need for it. I mean, the player stands on its own as it is. It's the best field in golf every year, and there's 4 majors. I think it'd be weird if we just made up a 5th one right now.
No, back to the beginning of this conversation, it has a clear and distinct, fantastic identity. There's nobody else in their category. I'd love to be the only thing in my category, and they have it. Hey, listen, I wish we had more time. Look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks. Thank you as always.
All right, Gary. See you, bud.
All right, the Walker Cup swag. So good. All right, when we continue from one guy who won on the PGA Tour to another guy who now is just a TV gas bag, I say it affectionately, Smylie Kaufman. His show follows us on Wednesdays, and of course, big stretch for him on NBC, part of the broadcast team. He joins me next. Back in on 5 Clubs live on Golf Channel on a Wednesday, also PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM, and this segment brought to you by Century Insurance. Their business is business insurance. If you need to evaluate yours, do it with them. They want to be right by you at Century Insurance. He's going to be right by you for the next 7 weeks on television. You're going to think that he's on the first page of every leaderboard because he will be omnipresent starting this week, and of course, happy hour as well. And equally as important, his program on Wednesdays here on Golf Channel, The Smylie Show. He, of course, is Smylie Kaufman. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's quite nice, Gary, to not miss cuts and know that I'm going to be there on the weekend and be at the top of the leaderboard. So yeah, it is fun being a part of the action every single week.
Yeah, you're going to be on television every weekend, and which is, I mean, what a tremendous guarantee. I'm curious. I've never asked you this. Did you watch a lot of golf on television growing up?
I did. I really did. My dad and I would always watch on Sundays. We would, it would be appointment TV for us, for the most part, always watching Tiger. And then at the very end, if there was a little bit of daylight left, him and I would go out and play just that late round of golf at the end of the day. And it's always the best I ever swung the golf club, hit the best shots of the year, always right after a golf telecast. So for me, I grew up watching it. Did I grow up thinking I was going to be a part of it? Absolutely not, Gary. Even when I was on the PGA Tour, I don't even think I knew where a compound was or what they did on TV. Who had the broadcast that week? And these are all things that now I can't believe I didn't know when I was on the PGA Tour.
Well, I was listening to a conversation you had with Rich Lerner, and one of the things you were talking about is that you like to prepare. You like to do it as somebody who was trying to get to the PGA Tour, which you did, and you won. And same thing you're applying to doing it now. But I'm curious, do you feel like you've learned things about the sport that maybe you weren't particularly aware of when you were playing the sport?
Yeah, I think just how I look at a golf course has changed a little bit, and maybe how I would have prepped as a PGA Tour player would have changed after having a couple years in TV of just how I look at things. But I've really fallen in love with the process, just like a PGA Tour player would with their process, getting ready every single week. And that's kind of changed, Gary. I would say over the years. At first, it was a lot of looking at the golf course, trying to be as most prepared for what I was going to anticipate the players going to be seeing that week. And sure, I do that every week, but now I think as the years have gone on, I've really leaned into looking at the data, falling in love with looking at stats and how players are informed, what they're working on, talking to coaches, and just trying to be as knowledgeable as I possibly can when I get to the first tee that day with whoever I'm following, or if I'm in the booth. And just trying to be as up-to-date as possible. So I feel like for me, it's 24/7 golf, always watching, whether it's your program or watching the PGA Tour, even trying to catch some DP World Tour at times.
It's interesting to see the networks make these transitions to a broadcast team. It happens over time. CBS has done it. NBC's done it. There are a lot of contemporaries of yours that are still in prime years. And I think it sets up these young guys like yourself for people to look for opportunities to say, he pulled a punch there. He wasn't as critical as he could have been because he's chums or he's buddies with that guy. Have you had a moment or two where you consciously said, gosh, that was harder to say than I thought? Or has all this stuff been easy for you to just flow and say what you want to say?
It hasn't been difficult at all for me because I feel like I know what a good shot is and what a not a good shot is. And so I think that's the easiest part because I think I have such high expectations that when I see a strategy or a shot shape that I disagree with, I'm going to talk about it. And whether it's my good friend or not, whether it's Jordan or JT or Rick, the guys that I typically hung out with on the PGA Tour, have no problem calling what is good and what is not good. So luckily for me, I haven't had a problem with it. I'm not to say that I won't have a problem with it at some point in my career, but so far so good, I would say.
Yeah, we were just, Matt Every and I, he mentioned Ludvig Åberg, and I was going to ask you about him anyway, because this is part of whether it's people who talk about the game, people like yourself who call shots and cover the game. When guys have lulls, it's not like we've dismissed them, but you temporarily kind of move on until they flash again. What is it that you are either not seeing or you want to see again? And it's not like he's gone all the way. Like he's been in the Tour Champions, his first 2 full seasons. He's in Tour Championships. He's on Ryder Cup teams. He won last year. He was right there at the Masters in his first start. But this is for him an ebb. So what do you need to see for us to feel like that incremental ascension is continuing for him?
Well, so we had Ludvig Åberg on earlier this season, and it was a great conversation. I talked to him a lot about what he's working on in his game and just really his pattern, because I noticed in a video that I took from him face on at the Tour Championship, and I studied this video for a long time because this is a guy that swings the golf club very, very fast. And from what I could tell from that video, there was a lot of sway in the backswing. And I was so excited to ask Ludvig about this. I said, is this pretty normal that you bump off the ball and you don't have a ton of hip turn? And he was like, man, I hate the look of that. So it was already something that he was working on heading into the off season, which is loading that right hip a little bit better. And when he loads it the right way, it is just, so good when he hits it nice. But the other thing he talked about too was trying to simplify the game. He felt like he had maybe too many windows that he was trying to hit and maybe too many shots that he was trying to hit the prior season, and that he was just trying to get to where the game was just a little bit more simplified. But even last season, there would be times where he was driving the golf ball really well or putting the golf ball really well. And there was other times where he was struggling with a certain aspect of his game, where this season it's been the iron game that's been an issue to start, where last season, at the beginning of the year, it was the short game. So there's just been inconsistencies in his game, but there's also been really high highs. He just needs to get back to what his baseline averages were, which when he came out onto the PGA Tour and he qualifies, making that Ryder Cup team for Luke Donald. Go look at his iron game heading into that Ryder Cup. It was really good. And when his iron game is really good, the rest of his game just falls in place because he drives the golf ball so good.
Spieth is not only somebody who you've got a bona fide kinship with. I know that you love, watching him, as most people do. He gave us one of the greatest rides in professional golf in this century. I went down a rabbit hole with him in 2018 and 19. Every time I was on site, I charted every shot. And it's me doing my own dime store psychoanalysis, which most people do about him. So I ask you, I look at him and I see somebody when he's in full flight, there is intuition, it's visualization and all that. But you know how belief and doubt is in this game. It's a death cage match. Belief, lands a blow and doubt goes down on the canvas and you wonder how long you just have this flow, and then all of a sudden doubt creeps in and you're like, I'm never going to be good again. Do you think his confidence is fortified that he can be who he was? Not whatever, but do you think that he has been damaged at all? Not right now, but at any moment that he needed to reclaim that I can be that guy again?
Well, I think any PGA Tour player goes through those periods where you're dealing with doubts, and he's not the only one that's dealt with it. We all deal with it every single day. Even the best in the world, like Scottie Scheffler, he just is really good at being able to compartmentalize it. So with Jordan Spieth and what I expect to see from him is a week like last week where he played really nicely, nice Sunday, and is able to build off of rounds. And the confidence bucket for him when he sees the shots that he's trying to hit, eventually just the thinking of how to do something will just slightly go away as time goes on. And then that artistry that you talk about will, I think, become much more at the forefront. And then those amazing conversations with Michael Greller that we're so used to come out and about because he's so engaged in the process of what he's seeing. And I think the more rounds that he can get under his belt to where they're consistent, keeping those big numbers off the card, getting up and down. I think last year, one of the things that I noticed was the scrambling numbers were down. And that's something that if you look at Jordan Spieth, that is, something that he's so good at. He's such a good pitcher of the golf ball, amazing bunker player, one of the best in the world. But it's those putts that were inside 6 or 7 feet, the momentum putts, not going in. And that was the biggest issue that I saw with Jordan is the momentum putts, the scrambling, and then just trying to, just ease the technique out a little bit away to where he can just focus on golf shots and then just playing with ultimate belief, which is what I think is one of his superpowers, is that he can really lock in and believe unlike any player that we've seen. Yeah, and you're right about scrambling. The first time I was with him was 2014. I spent a day with him, and the chipping, the short pitching. I went back to Golf Channel. I'm like, the kid's a witch. I mean, it was, and I've seen a lot of guys who do spooky, saucy stuff. It was at a level I hadn't seen before. All right, let me ask you about JT, because he does TGL the other night. And the only thing I was curious about was, I wonder what his ball speed is. And he's hitting drivers, 180, I get it. He's indoors, all that. But over the next month or so for you, what will be more constructive for you? Are they data points, or is it something else for you to see, to feel like he is returning physically and everything else to what he was? I think just the physical toll of playing a 72-hole golf tournament and walking, and he's been hitting the gym very hard with his trainer, Colby Toulier, and working on different aspects of his body that maybe you would neglect a little bit as a player. So he's been doing a lot of stuff, strengthening his hamstring, his glutes. And, I think when you start walking 18 holes every single day, there's a physical toll that takes. And I know some people laugh at that, but there is. And people don't realize how exhausting it is to go through a full week on the PGA Tour and then do that the following week and then the following week after that. And so expecting that he'll play the next 3 weeks starting at Bay Hill, just seeing physically how he looks. I'm not so concerned with the golf game with JT because it won't take long for him to figure out, where the bottom is and just getting back into a groove of things, because he's a world-class player, always has been ever since I've known him since he was a kid. Yeah, no doubt. Last thing, you were in the blender at the Masters in 2016. The following year, you weren't in the deep end of the pool at the Players, but you finished tied for 12th. I'm just curious, your experiences at the Players, the mental and psychological kind of dynamics, what did the Players feel like in terms of, how big it was? Oh, it's one of the best events that we had. It was one that you always look forward to. I remember one year I had withdrawal from Wells Fargo the week prior. I think this is in 2016. And I show up to the Players and I said, I don't care how hurt my wrist is, I'm going to play. It's the first time I've ever taken medicine to help me to try to not feel something. And so I took that morning, showed up to the Players Championship with a bum wrist on every single tee. I would stick my hand into the ice bucket where the waters were being kept to try to just get any type of relief. And luckily for me, with the medicine and then just having a numb wrist from the ice, I was leading the golf tournament through the first 7 holes starting on the back. But unfortunately, it got through the 17th hole. I think I made triple on 18. And I think I was 4 under through 7 or 8 holes. Ended up shooting like 1 or 2 over, MC hammer, and then it kind of wore off, that medicine. But I'll say that this Players Championship, I'm not in love with it in March. I think it's better in May. I think it requires more thought, more artistry in May. I think you talk to most players, they would tend to agree with that. I just remembered all the types of shots that I had to hit off the tee in May with how firm it was. Now it's just, there's a lot of drivers. There used to be more, like for instance, that 4th hole when you had Bermuda rough on that left side. Now the rough is always an issue on the 4th hole, even today, how thick it gets. But when it was Bermuda and you missed that fairway to the left, it was an auto layup. You couldn't hold the green because of the firmness of the greens. I was hitting 4 off that tee. I was putting in the back of the stance, hitting this low cut to try to find the fairway. And I just don't think you have much of that anymore out at the Players Championship. It's much more drivers because when it's overseeded wall to wall, it's just like, why not? Let's just get it up there as far as we can. Have a great 7-week stretch. Take a 10-minute break. Your show coming up at the top of the hour. Always good chatting. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Gary. All right, there is Smylie Kaufman, of course, this week and for the next 7, all the way the final event before the first major of the year. Those were winning words presented by Century Insurance. They want to be right by you with your business insurance. When we continue, we got standings, we got picks, we got dogs, and who is leading the standings? Used to be a dog. No more. We're back right after this. Back in on this Wednesday here on 5 Clubs. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. When it comes to having options in your wardrobe, nobody provides you more, from swim trunks to sport coats and everything in between. And by the way, I see the women on our staff wearing Millar gear. That the women's line has gone to a totally new level. All of it at Peter Millar and petermillar.com. Wednesday means dogs. And they are God's creature. They're amazing. And if you have a dog that you connect through the game of golf with him or her, send us picture, video, dogs at 5clubsgolf.com. It could be watching golf. It could be on the golf course. It could be a superintendent's dog, a head pro's dog, you name it. Send them all to us, dogs at 5clubsgolf.com. Here we go, your dogs of the week. We start with OB. What a great 2-year-old black lab located in Greenville, South Carolina. Loves playing with Titleist golf balls. OB has got style. That is Mike Crane's dog. This next dog is Lucy. That's Donnie Coiner's dog. Lucy loves to chase and herd the golf carts at Elks Fairview Golf Course in Keokuk, Iowa. I bet you it's really warm there today.
That is Dodger, who passed recently. That's Kerry Cosby, who's the director of golf, one of the great pros in America at Southern Hills in Tulsa, always present at the Southern Hills Performance Center. And then finally, that's Birdie and Ace at Fall Line in Mock, Georgia. Both are 6-year-old Pyrenees puppies. And for people who are going to be able to go to Fall Line, are you going to remember the holes? Are you going to remember Birdie and Ace? Those dogs are remarkable. You talk about dogs right there. Fall Line, Andrew Shuck, and everybody there, you know what you're doing. Absolutely. All right, let's get to the picks, but first standings. This is historic. From the outhouse to the penthouse, Brendan DeYoung. I bet you it's hard to breathe right now because he's never been in this thin air before. Taylor, Emma, Gil, Jay, myself. Keith, the equivalent of Shohei Ohtani hitting 180 and hitting 1 home run in the month of April. Hey, Keith, shake it off. You're the expert. With that, here are your picks this week for the Cognizant Classic. I'll play Shane Lowry 8 for 8 in the event, 4 straight top 11s. Gil goes Michael Torbjornsen, Lowry for Emma, Ryan Gerard for Taylor, Lowry for Brendan, Daniel Berger's got a good record there for Jay, and Keith, Nikolai Højgaard. Those are your picks for the Cognizant Classic. Next week, big week for us. 2-hour show on Tuesday. Webb Simpson in studio. Akshay Bhatia. Some of the members of our team will be with me in studio. Pro member at Seminole Monday, Jimmy Dunn will be with us. And then it's all about gold jackets on Wednesday. We will be at the James Hardy at Boca. Looking forward to talking to a lot of the legends of football. Have a great rest of your week. For all of us here at 5 Clubs, we'll see you Monday.